The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there and happy holidays. Welcome to Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show where your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. And we are here for our second annual TNAP/KNR Holiday Special. Last year we had a wonderful conversation, myself, Kason, and Jerry from the Bombad cast talking about the Star Wars Holiday Special. And this year we're doing something a little different. I got my eggnog, my Pennsylvania Dutch eggnog going here tonight. Very important. But it's going to be a fun one. It's an idea, not quite a pitch from our guest, but something our guest has mentioned before in passing that I was like, I kind of want to do a whole episode kind of talking through this take and this analysis. And I'm very excited to jump into it. And we're not going to waste any time here. So joining me is one Spencer, the Mando Simpson.
I'm not the guest, just to be clear.
He's not the guest.
I'm not the one with the idea.
He's a regular. You're part of the team. You're not special.
I'm just here to enjoy the conversation. Yeah, I'm very excited to get our guest on the stage, though. Hello, everybody.
Yes, Spencer, you're very special. I meant you're not a special guest. Is what I meant.
Yeah. Well,
very special. No. But our special guest, which I don't like saying now that it's in my mouth, host of Octo Radio, co-host of Anytime with Kenan Alden, co-host of Casterly Talk, and the Epic Confrontation singles champion of the world, one Alden, the Iconoclast Diaz.
I know it really pained you to say that last part, considering that I've beaten you 6 times, but it's sometimes to just be like that. You know, like if you look at a lot of the stories that we talk about, you know, there's no like Santa Claus is coming to town without, you know, the evil family that outlaws toys. And like, this is part of your development. Like you'll come out of this hopefully better.
If I'm Santa Claus, you are Burgermeister Meisterburger.
I'm glad you remembered his name. I knew it was something that was just like, what if we created a German caricature? Because, you know, tensions were still fresh. But
well, if Alden, even if you do, I'm confident that our audience may not know. So I'll just illuminate a little bit of this. The word Burgermeister is German for mayor. So Burgermeister Meisterburger is like, yeah, it's just back.
His name is just like Mayor the Mayor. Like it's just like a little joke.
Yeah,
it
is
Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, he's like Burgermeister is a real word, but they just like they're like German. Yeah.
That sounds like if you asked the most American guys to come up with a German name in the lunchroom. They're just like, Meister Burger. I mean, the Big Mac. Like, it sounds like bullshit. Oh, that's really funny. But thank you for having me. Excited to talk about this. I've evangelized about this topic for the last, I guess, 2 years now, because the show is 2 years old, or over 2 years old, because it was a summer show, which maybe it shouldn't have been. But yeah,
I think by the end of the show,
some of these things, we'll talk about this a little bit with Star Wars. Some of these are really well placed. Skeleton Crew at the time of this recording is in the middle of its season, and that is perfectly placed. I think that feels very warm. It's a holiday, but it feels very like you sit around with the family.
It's very cozy.
Yeah, Acolyte in the summer, I think was fine. Andor, you can kind of fit anywhere because, you know, Dystopia doesn't have a season. But I think that, this show, we'll get into some of the release date stuff with Star Wars and other movies. Like Die Hard.
Teaser for a pre-show argument that started to break out. Quick little programming note, speaking of Skeleton Crew. We will be covering Skeleton Crew. I have not had the chance to record. Day job is in retail, so my schedule's been busy. And then the last week and a half, I have been having some pretty bad back pain and did not have it in me to sit down and record after putting in a shift at the shoe mines. So apologies that we have not talked about Skeleton Crew yet, but it shall be coming. But If you're feeling stressed out about the holiday season, you just got to take off the edge. My friends, I present to you Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill by now. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice isn't for you. And you can also get your freak on by garnishing that bad boy with their award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus, as well as their rim salt if you're feeling freaky. This former bartender swears by only one Bloody Mary mix on the planet, and it is Sundays. So step up your Bloody Mary game now and go to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Use code TNAP at checkout. That rolled off of my tongue faster than I anticipated it. And good. Know that your favorite nerd sent you there. So before we jump into the immediate conversation, I will do a little round the screen here. Is everybody's like Christmas holiday time kind of movie habits? Alden, I know you've been on a tear. As somebody who's not even super into the season, your letterbox has been full of seasonal gems.
Yeah, we're recording this. You might be watching it after the fact. If you're in the Teen App audience, anytime really for the rest of the month would be a good time to listen to this conversation. But it's for 16 days into December, and I think I've watched 17 or 18 holiday viewing picks. And I don't normally do that. I'm not it's this time of year, so I don't do spooky season watches. I don't do. Yeah. I mean, I will, but like I'm not out to do that. And this year, something I was like, God, the holidays are getting me down. I need to like revisit some of these anyway. Let me just I have a mix of your favorites. I've got your Santa Claus is Coming to Town, like we mentioned. I got your the holiday, Miracle on 34th, but I also have your Iron Man 3, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Green Knight. Like movies that are non-traditional Christmas movies that have Christmas as a focal point, that have the themes.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, a shared favorite of us, a shared favorite of ours that'll probably be coming up. Hook. You and I are both Hook truthers.
Hook is absolutely a Christmas movie. In the literal, the plot happens because of it, but also in the what we'll talk about with Obi-Wan, which is a little bit of the can you reconnect with the inner child? Can you take the bad of the past and acknowledge it? Separate all that stuff. So yeah, I've been going through a lot of it, and I don't normally do it. There are some that I acknowledge are like, yeah, that's canon for Christmas films, but I've put them to the side. Elf is one of those. I did Elf a lot when I was in a relationship with somebody who loved that movie, and I'm a little burnt out on it. A Christmas Story, I never watch. I'm really tired of A Christmas Story. No offense to you and your lamp, Jared. And there's the fuck. It's like one of the whitest things about Jared is that he has that photo of the lamp as his profile pic during the season. It's so funny.
I went to the house. I had to.
But yeah, there are some that I'm like, I'm done with this. But I like finding, like right now. Again, don't want to date the episode too much, but right now I'm sure it's still on there on Netflix unless they killed it for tax reasons and you're watching this 2 years from now. But the movie Carry On that just came out is an airport action thriller. It's a Christmas movie. The whole airport is in the hustle and bustle because of the season, and he feels down on his life and doesn't know what he wants and all these things, and his girlfriend wants this thing and blah blah blah. And it's very diehard-y. Very diehard. So that's my short answer.
Excellent. Spencer, I'm so sad that you get to have your first tussle in the ring with Alden in an argument. So
like
enjoy
these a time or two before. I've never won, but it's still nice to,
You might have. Every time that we've been on and something has been a point of contention, my takeaway is always he's a good debater. And I know we've talked about that because I've thought that, because there are a lot of people where I'm like, I can smack that person around real quick in a debate and it's nothing, but I know you can hold your own.
Well, thank you. That's the best compliment I've received all day. If not all month. Thank you. So,
piss off.
If you could just try a little harder, he wouldn't have to wait a whole fucking month for a compliment.
Spencer, your watching habits before I lose my holly and jolly.
So my watching habits, when it comes to Christmas, I have several female members of my family who habitually watch Hallmark Christmas movies, and I'll put it very bluntly. Hallmark Christmas movies are, and Hallmark, like the lovey-dovey Hallmark movies in general, are to me emotional pornography. It's like there's very little substance. It's all about the, like, the feel. It's all about the release. It's all about
That's
whatever.
so good.
It's cathartic. It's just bad cinema. Very predictable. They all follow, much like just real, pornography. They all follow a very similar plot line in a different setting with different characters and different motives, but it's like all basically the same, right? So, aside from that,
I'm interrupting you for a moment, Spencer. Alden, what was that one thing Michael said to us once, talking about like the thinly veiled causality of pornography that leads from one instance to the next, or however?
I think that is the thinly veiled causality. Like, characters aren't so much characters as they are like, they're just agreeable Sims. They're like NPCs where it's just like, you could be like, I'm your plumber. She'll be like, but my pipes are fine. And he'll be like, I think they need work. And she'll be like, okay. Like, how does he know your house better than you? But that's the thinly veiled causality.
Very well put.
But to your point, in Hallmark movies, it'll be like, I really hate the holidays. I'm so depressed. And it's like the most beautiful person you've ever seen. Like, it's a beautiful person with a great job and a really happy disposition. But they need to hate it for the romance to happen.
It's just, and like, it all follows that, like, there's the introduction, there's the building action where they're like starting to get romantic and stuff, and like the holiday is introduced, and they enjoy it, and then there's like the falling action where like, oh my gosh, he betrayed me, or he's not who he says he was, or she's not, whatever. Like, there's some conflict that makes it, oh my gosh, it's terrible, and then the truth comes out, and it's like, oh no, like, it's all good, it's all okay. And then they come together romantically, and Christmas is saved magically, and it's just like, boom. It's the same thing over and over and over again. It's a very thinly veiled causality. Yes. So,
Merry Christmas, everybody. Porn
Merry
joke,
Christmas.
12 minutes in.
Merry Christmas. Hallmark movies are emotional pornography, and I stand by it. So that is what is sometimes found on for hours at a time at my family's house. And actually, I saw like a really funny meme, or it was like a reel on Instagram or something. It was like, or no, it was an ad. It was an ad. That's right, because I was just like, wow, this is surprisingly accurate, and they put it on prime time. It was something about how, like, the way dads watch TV is they just kind of like stand in the background and they pretend to be uninterested, but they're actually like kind of
gripped. Yeah.
That's the Hallmark Channel in our family, where like the men, like the women sit down and they watch it, and the men for like 5 minutes at a stretch will stand in the back and be like, and then they'll go about their business. But anyway,
they want to know the outcome of the plot, but they don't want to sit and watch the movie with people.
We all know what's going to happen. I just want to see how it happens.
I have a vivid image in my mind of your father, whom I have been in the class of, like silently being like, I really hope they work this out. Like, that's what you have in my mind.
But as for my personal regular viewing, my holiday viewing, it mostly comes down to two films. It's a Wonderful Life, which I'm sure will come up again in conversation. It is by far, in my opinion, the best Christmas movie, the top 10 winner year after year after year, and The Muppets Christmas Carol. Those are two movies that I see every single Christmas. And those are the only two movies that I see every single Christmas. Other than that, it is just, it's a total toss-up.
And I endorse, and as we all three do, both of those are on my list. And
this is my first year seeing It's a Wonderful Life, by the way. Like, I'm a big Christmas guy. This year was the first time I saw it. It's one of those I'll get around to, and the season gets so busy that I go back to Old Reliable and pass up on it. But because I was like, okay, what should I watch to prime myself for this conversation? Alden was like, It's a Wonderful Life is going to be like very important. to this discussion.
I'm surprised.
And that was part of why I told Spencer, I'm like, you need to be on this episode because you've seen this movie so many more times than me, and I'm
surprised that we've been friends as long as we have, and in 2024, your 26th year of existence is the first time you've ever seen
also statistically weird that somebody that loves Christmas hasn't seen it, not just because it's iconic, but because mathematically, I mean, like literally statistically, when I was a senior in high school, I don't know if this is still true, so I have to qualify it. So at this point, 10 years ago, Jesus, it was the most played film on television, period. It eclipsed A Christmas Story. Even though A Christmas Story gets the 24-hour slot, It's a Wonderful Life has been played so many times on broadcast television.
I want to say there's some behind the scenes stuff related to that. It's a Liberty Bell production or something like that. I want to say it's like Frank Capra.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly how or exactly why, but I want to say that company and especially that film didn't do particularly well. And so the rights for it sold really cheap. And so all the networks picked it up and everybody played it all the time. And so that's why it's on the TV all the time. And maybe
that's such a fascinating little quirk. I love weird little like distribution lore that ends up playing a huge role.
It's also like that's like up there, like movie lore with how the trick question of which movie has the longest theatrical run in movie history, because most movie people will immediately say Gone with the Wind, but it's not true. It's Rocky Horror. Because the criteria is that it's screening somewhere in a multiplex in some month, and it always is, because not every state has the same schedule of when they're doing their fucking Saturday Night Rocky, and Rocky is still in theaters. It has never left, technically.
Wow.
So
that's fascinating. I didn't know that. I did not know that it was Rocky. I don't think I would have said Gone with the Wind.
Never have guessed. I would never have guessed either. When you say Gone with the Wind, it makes sense. When you say Rocky, I'm like, what?
Yeah. Literally every other Saturday or every 3 Saturday, whatever, somewhere in the country, you can find it. And so here in Florida, I know exactly where to go.
All right. Just minor sidetrack here. What is the qualification for never having left multiplex? Like, does it have to be within a certain interval of days? Because you said like every other Friday or whatever.
I think it's like it has to play like more than once a month, consistently. Like there is some criteria, but like the theater we went to in Fort Lauderdale to do Rocky is the classic Gateway Theater, and it's an old little rundown theater. It's been there forever. It has like 3 screens, and they do Rocky every other Saturday. And they have done Rocky every other Saturday pretty much since it became a cult classic. And so it's like just at the Gateway, it's had a 30+ year run.
Wow.
And if you get that at least in one place in all 50 states, which it is, then you can say it's still in wide release, kind of.
Well,
Rocky Horror Picture Show will like survive like the thermonuclear holocaust of the earth.
It's like butter scraped over too much bread. Like, just enough to get
roaches by, and Rocky Horror Picture Show.
But to touch upon a subject that we clipped off in pre-recording here, like what makes a Christmas movie? Because I was about to say in pre-recording, I was about to say,
well, if I could do my Christmas movie stuff real quick.
I'm sorry, I forgot. We haven't got Jared. Jared, the Holly Jolly Jedi. What is your regular Christmas rotation?
So first of all, the Bachman Stubbs household is a hard line. Christmas Story 24-hour marathon is on for at least 12 hours. At least 9 p.m. strikes on Christmas Eve. We're on TBS, and we're going until somebody who got a new video game for Christmas is playing that hoe on the TV. Or this year, it's going to be interrupted by the Steelers-Chiefs game. But, like, that's it. It's on the whole time. A family tradition. The movie has a little bit of baggage because of one of its stars. For years, my family, when we decorate the tree, we watch The Ref, starring Dennis Leary, and Kevin Spacey is like one of the co-leads. So it's
holy shit. Okay, I have to just real quick, just for my internal monologue, I was preparing a joke where I was like, I don't know what movie he's gonna say, but I was trying to write in my head real quick a one-liner where I was gonna say, "Oh, I didn't realize that your family sat around for the Kevin Spacey Christmas special." Not having never seen the ref. I've never seen the ref, so I did not know he was in that. So I was just like, "Oh, who's a canceled actor?" And because of Superman, he was on my mind.
Well, also don't forget, Kevin Spacey every Christmas releases those unhinged Frank Underwood videos.
That's right. We're due.
We're due for a Kevin Spacey video.
Anyway, watch the rap. I've never seen that.
Alden, again, if you can get past the Spacey of it all, you would fucking love that movie.
I like that theory a lot. I'll check it out.
But yeah, so that's always one. I am a big fan of the 2000 Ron Howard, Jim Carrey Grinch movie. And in the time where I have been living with my girlfriend, that's actually become our decorating the tree movie that kind of kicks off Christmas movie watching. So it's those. Alden, I'm in the same boat as you with being burnt out on Elf. I've softened on it over the years. Spencer can attest to this. Where we went to high school.
It's a good film.
It's
a very good film. But it's so easy to get burnt out on when you watch it. Like
when you're subjected to the same
every
40 minutes of it a day. All day. I was like, I swore off Elf for like a year and a half, and then I'm like, I watch it once a year, and I get my fill, and I'm like, okay, cool.
It's really tough.
No, it's having been with somebody for a good amount of time who loved it. I was very happy that she loved it, but loved it. Like I'd be like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm writing the Code of the Elves in like her nice like calligraphy or whatever," because she knew it. Like she knew the script. And I don't mean just like she knew the quotes. I mean she knew the script. Like she could just sit there and do it. And I just, it's too much.
She knew Elf the way all three of us know Return of the Jedi.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. But
it got to a point, Jared, do you remember when we went to the that one-man show Star Wars thing?
Yes, I do. I remember it vividly, and I know exactly what you're about to say.
And which
was a Christmas gift for us. It was all those years ago.
It was a Christmas gift from my parents for me that the three of us, the two of us plus Joel, went to go see it, and it was much less impressive because we already knew the whole thing word for like it was great. It was a fun show, but it was like we already knew
when you know these screenplays front to back a little too well for your own good, it's a little less impressive. But
but it was still a great time.
Oh, it was wonderful. But the elephant in the room here, I'm going to let you two go at it. What is and isn't a Christmas movie?
Oh dear.
Spencer, I'll throw to you first because you were beginning the conversation.
Yeah. So this is my opinion, and it's a pretty simple one. If the events happen to coincide with the Christmas time, but have very little to do with what in Western culture Christmas has come to represent, which is a broad definition, I grant.
Of course.
Then it's not a Christmas movie. Like to me, Die Hard is an action movie set at Christmas time. It does not count as a Christmas movie. To me, Iron Man 3 is an action movie set at Christmas time. It has very little, if like there's a couple plot points in each that have to do with Christmas, but you could easily set that movie at any other time and it would be a great standalone film, have nothing to do with Christmas and be just fine. So those are two ready examples, in my opinion, and I am looking forward to hearing. Yes, thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing.
Alden went to bed. That's Thalbor.
I look forward to hearing the rebuttals of our esteemed guest, Mr. Alden Diaz. But to me, for example, a movie like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is an action movie.
Okay.
And could it be considered a non-Christmas movie? Absolutely, it could. But there are elements within that movie that are specifically tied to the season. For example, when they're describing the winter time, like the perpetual winter that the witch brings during the beaver or somebody describes that season as it's always winter but never Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gives you like in your warm fuzzy place, it's like, oh, so it's
That
like
it
the hard
should
part.
be coming. That
It's
it,
like
yeah.
it's the hard part of the year without
Mm-hmm.
the warm feeling that comes with the fellowship, with the season.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever in the movie Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like Santa shows up basically, and he's like, hey, winter is coming to an end and Christmas is here. It's like, oh yes, great. So like, to me,
Yeah.
I still wouldn't consider Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe a Christmas movie. However, that little nugget, like that little element, is what I'm looking for in
Mm-hmm.
what I would qualify as a Christmas movie. So like Die Hard, it might be set during Christmas, but there's no like, there's no nugget.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man 3, there's no nugget. But with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, even though I wouldn't qualify it or classify it as a Christmas movie,
It's
it
skirting
has
the edge of your qualifications. Yeah.
it has the nugget, but it's not like it's
Mm-hmm.
not so it in my famously hard to define terms of what's what. To me, it's like where is that distinctly seasonal, distinctly thematic element that says
Mm-hmm.
like this is a movie about, or this is a show about people getting together in a season that is traditionally cold, but doesn't, I suppose, necessarily have to be, and like just the warm fuzzy element of gathering together with the people that mean the most to you to celebrate a time like what we know as Christmas. So, Alden, I'm
Okay.
anxious to hear.
So I will start by saying very simply, one, you are right that this is extremely difficult to define. It is infinitely easier, obviously, because of the confines of horror, to say that doesn't count as a Halloween movie, or that's not scary. Or that's granted, that still comes down to subjective. You'll have people that are terrified of things, other people aren't. So even then, we have some wiggle room. But it's like we all very clearly understand horror, rom-com, and everything. But Christmas, because it's not a genre, it's a trope, and it's an umbrella, it becomes difficult. So I will say there's not going to be a right answer, and there are people that are absolutely going to flame me for what I'm about to say, and vice versa. I did not take any actual notes. I did what Jon Stewart did and scribbled because I don't need notes for this. The thing of, okay, so I'll start with all three of the films that we're talking about. If your examples, Die Hard's not personally on my list because I'm just like never really itching to watch Die Hard outside of just YouTubing Alan Rickman scenes, because it's just not my preferred action franchise. But I've always come down on it and I'll say why. My approach to it, if we're talking about criteria and skirting the edge of it, is very much it's the type of metric where it's like you can achieve success through different paths. Like you can get there hitting different categories. Like, you know how we talk about, I mean, this is the Nerd Academy podcast, so it's like your listeners will understand. We talk about sometimes Jedi or other things where it's like, especially you guys on Versus, like, oh, this person might not be all in on this, but they satisfy enough of these to make up for that. And like, so there's an algorithmic sort of thing happening where it's like, we'll go to Die Hard. Die Hard is not about some of the things that we're going to discuss with these Christmas movies. It doesn't have anything really about the inner child. It doesn't have anything about religiosity or faith. It doesn't have anything really about gift giving or anything like that. But the reason why it gets pushed over for me, it just takes place there, because I hear that argument, and that argument gets thrown around all the time. It could have been a Halloween party at Nakatomi. It could have been a 4th of July barbecue at Nakatomi. It could have been anything. The reason why it works as a Christmas film is because McClane is only present in the state to reconnect with his estranged family. And the fact that's the only reason he's there in Act 1. He's there to reconnect with his estranged wife. And so when you take a man who's like lost the spark of family and all these things, and it is Christmas that brings him out there, everything else that happens is set dressing. It could have been McClane goes out there and Bruce Willis just gets into an argument, or Bruce Willis has to jingle all the way and find a gift, or Bruce Willis has an awkward weekend with her family, whatever it is. It just so happens that it's kill terror.
He gets into a shootout with a bunch of
so it's like that. At the core is sort of like what I'm working with, and this will come up a lot with Kenobi and something like Narnia. You brought it up really well, where it's like that one even more overtly is there. One, because it is so based in the Christian myth. Like Aslan is the presence of the Judeo-Christian God in a fantasy setting. He is killed and gets resurrected in that one story, one of several different novels, and they just bam right there in Narnia, which of course I know you don't have to drop it in the comments. I know it's not the first one, but it was the first movie. And Aslan, the idea that he's always there, the fact that he is intimately connected with the world and nature and the old magic, the fact that Santa Claus is a part of it, the fact that it's a perversion of winter, like you said, the depressing sort of winter that hangs over, and the fact that it's about the kids in this this war-torn real world that have to come together and sort of rely on each other as family and all this stuff. That one definitely feels like it. But then Iron Man 3 is an interesting thing too, which will come around in the Kenobi conversation, which is about what tropes are we satisfying, even if we're not satisfying them explicitly. Like, yes, Iron Man 3 takes place at Christmas. The aesthetic is everywhere. It's a Shane Black movie. He loves Christmas. Even in his least Christmassy films, it's present. Like The Nice Guys is never like, it's Christmas, but right at the end of The Nice Guys, it is. And so like, it's always there. Iron Man 3 is interesting because it's somebody going into the holiday season with immense crippling anxiety. For Tony, it comes from the Battle of New York, but that's where he arrives in the holiday season, as he's pushed everyone away and closed himself off in work. How many dads and husbands have we seen do that in holiday films? His marriage is on the rocks. She tells him to sleep on the couch. And his big move to try to win her back is to get her a really shitty Christmas gift that she doesn't like, that is totally impersonal. And what is his big move that brings the relationship back together? A really grand Christmas gesture that she actually appreciates, that is a gift, when all the armors are blowing up in the Christmas fireworks and everything, after he drops that epic line, it's Christmas, take him to church, and all the armors do their thing. Then he gets rid of him as a gift to his soon-to-be wife. And that's why that one comes together. On top of the fact that the Mandarin's whole thing, outside of like American policing of the world and our obsession with terror and our obsession with blaming foreign demagogues, he's also talking about how we take things and commercialize them and suck them out of all meaning, which is super like satirizing Christmas. He talks about it with the fortune cookie, how we take stuff from other cultures and then blend it all together and just, produce a lie and all these different things. So that one in its way, and this will come up a lot with Obi-Wan, because of course you might have noticed Christmas doesn't exist in Star Wars. Life Day does. And even though Life Day is not in this story, a lot of my argument for it comes down to, we are fulfilling these tropes. We are, if you can break down all the classics, that what's the line from It's a Wonderful Life to Hook to any of really the modern ones, even sometimes through side characters like Buddy the Elf's father, is a guy that either feels completely devoid of the joy he used to have, of the purpose he used to have, of the person he used to be, and that's extremely important for the setup of Obi-Wan. I do want to note, while we're just finishing setup, the Star Wars of it all specifically. We should note before I get into the actual argument, I am not saying it is literally a Christmas story. I might have posted that or whatever. You can find the screenshot and be like, no, but you said, whatever. I just mean it is the most. It is the definitive one they have. It's the best case. It's not the holiday special. I'm sorry. Yes, the holiday special exists and it is a holiday special. But like Life Day is like barely defined in it. We've done stuff for Life Day now, but it's also it's a variety special released at the holidays. It has the Boba Fett debut in animation. It has the masturbating Wookiee. It has B. Arthur. Like, you can, yeah, Carrie Fisher sings a lovely song at the end, but that is not enough. I'm sorry. And then everyone else has their, like, this one feels like Christmas to me. This one feels like Christmas to me. Usually The Force Awakens gets thrown around because it cemented and planted the flag in December. And I get that. But really, outside of the Han being the broken old dad that realizes he needs to reach out to his kid in a time of turmoil, it's not satisfying any of those tropes. It does. Snow is irrelevant to me here. Snow and aesthetic is entirely irrelevant to what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
so that's my own.
I agree. I think the snow and the aesthetic is the least important element when it comes to a Christmas story, because you could have a Christmas story in Sudan or in Colorado. Like there's snow in Colorado, but like it's a generally warmer place. So yeah, it comes down to the themes that are expressed.
Absolutely. Yep. I love that. I love where all of this is going already. So with all of that said, Alden, I would like to give you the floor to kind of outline the big idea here.
Okay.
Run through the.
So yeah, do you want me to drop the points in a succinct version, or are you trying to talk about a point, move on to the next point, talk about a point, move on to the next point? Do you want me to lay out the whole argument and then we just talk? It's your show.
We can do that. Yeah, we can do that. I'd like to. These are one of those instances where I have somebody on who's like low key the host for the night. So I obviously defer to you because you're an infinitely better producer.
Whatever, man. It's your no, seriously, it's your show. It's your show. I don't want to.
No, you're not stepping on any feet. Whatever's easiest for you to lay it all out.
All right. Well, how about this? I did just rewatch it, and I wrote about it on Letterboxd. So I'm just gonna read what I wrote.
Okay.
I'm gonna quote myself.
Please do.
Gets a little sassy at the top. I wrote
you a little sassy, and
you know how it is. I wrote the definitive Star Wars Christmas tale. Yes, it's this, not the holiday special, not one of the stories with a snow planet, and not one of the movies with a December release date. It's this incredible show. The entire story is about reevaluating life, starting over, making the better choice, believing in the future, letting children be children, rediscovering one's spirit, and embracing the concept of forgiveness. It has every Hallmark theme and cornerstone of your finest holiday works. I mean, just watch that ending. You have Obi-Wan telling Reva that she's given peace to her family. That's a gift. And then he gives her a gift by returning her mercy and telling her that she can choose her own way. And if all of that isn't enough for you, it's also quite literally a story about a special bearded man who tries to deliver a toy for a child, then goes on an adventure where he reconnects with his magic, then finally delivers the toy. And there's a literal ghost who reaffirms that the power is all about belief and being ready to see. Hell, you could even argue that there's a classic past, present, and future trope going on with Vader and Qui-Gon, Owen and Tala, and other assorted friends, and the Skywalker twins being the future. It's all there. That's Christmas, baby. May the Force be with you. Follow me on Letterboxd. So that's the opening argument. And I will say, I on any time with Kenan Alden.
I was going to say, I caught on to the little bit that Ken said on air the other day.
I threw out all the thematic stuff, some of the thematic stuff, and we'll get into, the first paragraph. Obviously, I listed themes. We will talk about them, and scenes and different things and parts of the show, having rewatched. But then Ken, of Force Center, of course, Ken Knapsack, he was like, "Oh, I thought you were going to talk about how it's about a bearded guy trying to deliver a toy to a kid." And I was like, it is. It is. The first episode, he buys this toy from Tika the Jawa at a upcharged price, by the way. She tried to charge 100 credits. He got it down to 75.
Tika is a reseller, okay? I work in the sneaker industry. That's the guy who comes in and buys like 5 size 10s and sells 4 of them for like $800.
For sure. And he gets this toy from Tika, tries to give it to Owen. Him and Owen have what? a familial spat about how a kid should grow up and all these things. I wonder if we've seen that in some of these family Christmas films with tension, like Home for the Holidays and other such films. And then back from part 1 to part 6 at the very end, even Owen's heart grew 3 sizes. And he said, Ben, you want to meet him? And he gives him the toy. And he gives him the little toy. And that gift, that literal physical toy inspires a spark of hope in this kid. You might even call him Tiny Luke for this scenario. And we see him playing with it 9 whole ass years later. It might be his only toy because he's still 9 years later. And that was because a bearded wizard gave it to him. Apropos of nothing, straight to his house.
As someone who's known Alden for a couple years now and truly considers him one of my closest, dearest friends, I have never watched you go to war with like both sides of your psyche more in one sentence in my life, between chasing the dragon of a bit and trying to hammer home a thematic point. That every other word was, it's Tiny Luke, but this Skyhopper toy represents his want to move on beyond the thing, and maybe it's his own family fucking toy. And
that's the thing, is that like the best bits are rooted in truth. And it's like,
yes.
My initial, I didn't even say my initial seed of this is a Christmas story was, I think, early 2023, because we'd sat with maybe even late 2022, maybe it was that holiday. And I think it was because of and I'm not knocking anyone that does this. I mean, the background here is Holiday Special. I get it. It's fun. But like every fucking year, Star Wars fans like go out of their way to like get their niche point by being like, time for my annual viewing. First of all, I don't believe half of you do it. Like, I really don't. I believe it's for social media in some cases. It's not shaded at anyone in particular. It's kind of just like when people like say that they watch bad things or like, yeah, I love bad movies. It's like, okay. But it got me thinking, like, I wish we really had one. And for a while I was like, fuck, that'd be such a great Mandalorian episode, because you have your ones that are part of the larger arc, and they all are, but you have your ones that are more standalone. I was like, dude, Din and Grogu stopping on a planet where they're celebrating Life Day and having to like, they've already done the defend the village plot, but something that preserves the holiday.
You could go all in and do a Grinch style story where there's like some like crime syndicate trying to pull a heist in the middle of Life Day, and
100%.
Din gets in there and pops some fools, and
and then like at the end, like some kid like puts a little charm on his armor or whatever. There's like Favreau, I'm telling you, but like. I got me thinking, like, fuck, we really don't have one. And I started going through them, trying to find which one, because Anakin, the elements of him that are Christ figure-y, none of them are about his birth. It's the circumstances of his birth and the fact that he's metaphorically resurrected. Sure, but that's not Christmas. It's like Shmi doesn't say, 3 wise men came when he popped out. Like, it's not like it doesn't connect. So the only one I could find was Kenobi. Then I went down this rabbit hole. And part of it started with there's a ghost at the end. Qui-Gon was my first thought. It was like, you have to reconnect to the magic and then you can finally see the ghost. Tim Allen's the Santa Claus. It's not seeing is believing. Believing is seeing. And then I started to realize, like, oh my God, like this is kind of all there, especially things like about the kids. Like it's about giving them the opportunity to be children through the delivery of a toy, through Bail telling Leia, like, there's many different ways to lead. And then she starts to cosplay with the gloves that she got along the way, with the holster she got along the way, her little gifts. She puts together her outfit. That's like a kid opening up their Leia or Rey or Mando cheap ass little Walmart costume and putting it on fresh out of the wrapping paper. They didn't clean up anything. They're running around like, and Luke tells Owen, or Ben tells Owen, like, I think he just needs to be a boy right now. Like, there's so much going on. And then, of course, with Obi-Wan himself, like the It's a Wonderful Life of it all, of like I'm removed from all this. I'm dead inside. And like I on a rewatch, like they put the warnings on it because of the Order 66 scene, and it aired right after a school shooting, which is
right after
unfortunate.
Uvalde, which is
right after Uvalde.
Like every time, because I finished my rewatch of Kenobi today.
Yeah.
And I was like, obviously I've seen it so many times. So I was like doing laundry like while watching it. And I remember looking up just at the beginning of the episode and like getting a chill. I'm like, oh man, I always forget every time I read.
Because I watched it. I saw it at the premiere and there was no warning.
Yeah.
And then they added it. And I remember like, so it's that, but then like the Ben stuff in parts 1 and 2 and 3 really is so grim. Like, I forgot the places that it goes to the point where you think like much like It's a Wonderful Life, where you get to that bottom of like, I just shouldn't even be alive. He doesn't say those words, but like Nari gets not crucified literally, but is hung out for the entire town to look at his corpse. His body is there, and that's directly because of Ben's like depression and inaction and everything. Like there is a literal, it's not just Leia that motivates him to get back in the fight. It's a body that is on him, one more that is on him. And it's like, it gets to that place. And you have to get to that place. I mean, like the beginning of Hook with Peter, when he snaps on his kids, like, can't you be quiet for one goddamn minute? Or like whatever he says, like you have to get to the place where you're like, I don't like you anymore. And like Peter Pan, the negotiator, the swashbuckler, the guy who bagged a duchess one time, like he's dead. He's dead, and he has to be resurrected.
Well, I like that a lot too. With again this whole idea of like self rediscovery and reconnecting, be it with the inner child or with like the more robust version of the self. Because I watched, and again, as I said, Spencer, I don't know your take on Hook. It's never come up, but Alden and I both have talked about how like we're like the people who talk about it as like the unsung Spielberg flick, and how it does not get its flowers. And
true,
I was showing Taylor the movie for the first time the whole way through at the beginning of December, and I forgot how much of a gut punch that line from Wendy is at the beginning with that, Peter, you've become a pirate.
Yeah.
And like I literally just had to do a lap around the living room because it's been so long since I got to watch Hook uninterrupted. Like when I was bartending still, this time of year, I just had Freeform on all day because it was just nothing but Christmas movies. And Hook would play, and I inevitably would always be like in the middle with Peter training to become himself again. And, the big climactic, duel between him and Hook and Rufio being killed and all of that stuff. But I always missed that beginning chunk where he's still, miserable fucking Peter Banning. And just, oh God. But it is that. It is the George Bailey on the bridge. It is, Peter, you've become a pirate. It is, Obi-Wan
It's
Kenobi.
really, really grim. And then like with, sometimes visually this happens. The Santa Claus again is a great example of like his opening up and becoming a better father can literally be tied to his physical transformation into Santa Claus. I'll credit M from Pink Milk when I was covering Kenobi on Octo Radio. I say M from Pink Milk. I know Pink Milk is defunct, but just like M from everything at this point.
Yeah.
M from and follow M at Hutzleia across the socials. Great fic writer, great person overall.
Spencer, she was on whenever we did Last Crusade on Bombad.
Yeah.
That's who you're talking about. I wasn't sure if you remembered who we were talking about.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, super, just like sharp, intelligent human being. And M brought up a point when we covered part 4, maybe part 5. I think it was part 5. No, it was part 5. We covered part 5 and how one of the things that, which I know, Jared, you mentioned might be your favorite episode of Star Wars live action TV. But part of it in terms of the visual of Kenobi is that like when we meet him and he is this broken down man, he's wearing those blues from his job, working, cutting up that creature, harvesting the meat and all that. Then when he leaves to get Leia, he's in a Jedi-esque outfit, but it's very much like bootleg.
It's like a legally distinct Jedi costume.
Yes, exactly. And then he gets the tunic from Jabim the gray, which looks great. And then you'll notice steadily he then adds, and then finally it starts to resemble everyone's favorite Legends sideshow look, which will then become Alec Guinness. And the way M phrased it was so beautiful, which is Obi-Wan gets to the crossroads of this like underground railroad path situation, and you see these lightsabers and these tunics and these cloaks that are from people that, to move on and survive, put these things aside. But Obi-Wan is such a Jedi that when met at the crossroads, he doubles down. Like, and he doesn't even have dialogue about it. He doesn't need that cloak. It serves him nothing. The weather's not bad. Nothing's going on. He's not going outside.
Like the sleeveless robe.
Yeah, there's the one he puts over the gray. There's no Star Wars reason, nothing. He's just looking at these sabers, picks one up for a second, then looks to the side and is like, I need more. Like, he gets these moments where he suddenly is just like, Obi-Wan Kenobi can't help but, like, even in an underground railroad situation, start to dress it up even more. Like, when he probably should be doing less. He probably should grab a hat or a pair of goggles or a vest or something. But the feeling is the feeling. And he can't really stop the feeling.
Related to that feeling, what I love in the 6th episode, whenever Obi-Wan's bartering with the rest of the Path people to like let him be the distraction to pull Vader away, coming back to like the idea of like the gift, whatever that gift either is, literally or metaphorically. You know, the one person on the ship says something to the effect of, you know, like we're supposed to all escape together. You said we would all escape together.
Oh, that's what's his face's mom, Corn Horn.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then Obi-Wan puts his foot down and he's like,
is that his name? I forget his name.
They say Corrin. They say
Corrin.
My child Corrin in the episode
Corrin.
In episode 3, but it is Corrin Horn,
Yeah.
or episode 2 rather. But he's like, Obi-Wan then puts his foot down and he's like, no, you've all been risking everything for years to protect the Jedi or whatever's left of it. Let me return the favor. Let me, you know, give you the gift of, you know, potentially laying down my life to either distract or defeat Darth Vader.
And what else? What else is happening in that scene that you're not privy to until later in the episode?
Is
Leia has slipped him based on his little joke. He's not being serious, obviously, when he says he needs the droid. He's Obi-Wan fucking Kenobi. He does not need a child's droid to help him in this situation.
This guy killed Darth Maul 3 times. Like,
but he says, like, you know, maybe I could borrow her or whatever he says. And Leia doesn't even think, because that's who she is. And also in the backdrop of this, of 5, and then, you know, of course it leads into 6 with Hayden delivering his like incredible performance. But in 5, when you get, you know, I think a lot of people have headcanoned as probably the morning before they saw Padme in Attack of the Clones, because it feels like it's right there, and they're on Coruscant.
And his head is clearly not in where it should be. Anakin,
it's not where it should be. And by the time they get to Padme's apartment, it looks like it's midday because of the elevator, and like it's like more sun's kind of, you know, whatever. But the thing that I love about it is that, and the episode is, you know, it drives this point home because children watch this, but like, it's that holiday thing. Whenever you get a holiday movie going, or a Christmas movie specifically, and you put the families together and you need tension, we're never at the beginning of the tension, right?
No.
With a child, you are sometimes, but family arguments in Christmas movies and holiday movies
you
are
pick
always
it up in
with
the middle.
Yes, the implied history of we've always argued about this, and it's like I'll rewatch
Home
for the holidays.
Boil over in real time.
Yes, and it's like Robert Downey Jr. comes home and he's this brother and he's always causing a problem, and then the brother-in-law of the sister is like, "Oh fuck this guy! You said he wasn't going to be here." We've constantly been having the same fight, and because Anakin and Obi-Wan, even when they are exiled Jedi Master Ben and Darth fucking Vader, they are still doing the you're cocky and you're arrogant, and that's why your training sessions always end the same way. Like you're never going to. I think Obi-Wan says to him, like, a Padawan you shall be. until you get over
Padawan, until you get over your need to prove yourself and your desire for victory. A Padawan you will always be.
And he still is a Padawan, even as
I gotta
Lord
write
Vader.
that down about my trivia record.
He still, Jared, please. Jared, I will smoke you impromptu right now. Don't try.
I'm just trying to 8 Mile myself before you can say anything.
Oh, I'm sure. But yeah, so it's like even in that, even Vader peppered in as the mixture of the Ghost of Christmas Past, because again, having watched Muppets Christmas Carol the other day and any adaptation, you'll remember like the Ghost of Christmas Past future is very dark leaning because it has to be. Present is very light leaning until it's not. There's the implication of like, yeah, he might not survive anyway. Like,
right.
But past is very 50-50.
Yeah.
Past is like stuff that Scrooge is like, yes, yeah, oh my, I was a boy here. Oh, I loved her so much. And then it pivots into, please God, don't show me this. This is where it went bad.
Yeah.
And so past has that mixture that's so strong that Vader obviously represents, because he's spending the whole representation with Vader's legacy walking next to him, sassing him. And she's amazing. And she's wonderful. And he has these moments like in episode 2 on Dayu when she marches ahead of him and he smiles and she's like, what? And he goes, you just reminded me of someone. And by the way, I almost fucking sobbed at that. And I've seen it. I know what he's going to say when he's like, was she a Jedi? No, she was a leader. Like little things like that. I'm like, and then, that's so rooted in all the thematics that we're talking about. And like, if Christmas did exist in this, I guarantee you that it would have been like the seasoning over the entire story. The only thing missing from this, frankly, is Life Day. But like Tatooine is like so like backwoods that like I don't really think logically that anyone would be happy to celebrate it there.
No, only Boonta.
No.
I wouldn't think so.
Oh goddamn, dude, that's so good. So what were the other themes that you kind of had listed that you want to kind of like run through that you had in there in that incredible Letterboxd review?
Yeah, so I mean, we're starting with
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you again for one more moment before you do that. I do want to say, like, I love your mapping out of the Christmas Carol like ghost structure. That's another thing I wanted to touch on. I thought it, and then I spoke before I said what I wanted to say.
No, that's a good point. I mean, like Vader,
because I do love that. Because I think so many people, they go, okay, the Ghost of Christmas Future is death, and therefore it's Vader because of like he is going like
he's the dark, scary one.
Yeah, and obviously like the future is leading to his defeat and his redemption, but he can only be redeemed in defeat. But that point of it is past, and that 50-50 nature, I think, is so apt. And again, with like Reva and Owen, and then the twins.
Past, like I said, is that split, and the two figures from his past. It's the past stuff that he wants to reconnect with, just like how Scrooge wants to stay at the Fezwick party. With the love of his life, he wants to be there. He doesn't want to see the other stuff from the past. He just wants, he wants to see his school friends, but he doesn't want to remember that they all went home for the holidays and he didn't. He wants to have just the Master Qui-Gon stuff. Obi-Wan's reaching out the whole show. But it's like, you can't just have that conversation. And let's say you did. What do you think Qui-Gon's going to want to fucking talk to you about? It's going to be this. It's going to be this topic that you don't want to have to confront. So Vader, Qui-Gon are right there as past. This is not a situation where you can so easily, ascribe it to one character. And then present is Haja. Present is Tala. Present is and Ned B. Present is Roken. Present is Reva. It's all these people that either through malice or through their actions or through even their comedy with Kumail that are all reminding people, hey, you used to be this, you still are, and that's still applicable. Because like Haja will do it in a funny way, Like when he realizes that he had Obi-Wan Kenobi in front of him and he's like, oh, that's embarrassing. Like, and then goes and Obi-Wan makes him want to do the right thing. He doesn't try to cash in on him, not even once. And that's Obi-Wan's influence. It reminds you that you have the ability to affect people around you, just like how Scrooge has to be reminded, like, you can give these people the day off and be fine. There's not like, you're not struggling. You're not hurting for money. Like, so there's that. But then also, as Present does, there's also the threat. You know, Present is also like, oh yeah, and then there's Tiny Tim. Oh, is he gonna be okay? Hard to say. Maybe not. Like there's that lingering, like, ugh. And Present hangs over, you know, as Tala and influences Leia, as Reva, of course, goes after Luke. And then the kids are the Tiny Tim, not just because they are little and one of them is poor, but because it's like they could easily, you know, die of their sickness metaphorically. It could go the other way if you don't make the right choices. Everything has to be treated with grace during this show for the original trilogy to happen. Yes, literally because of their lives, but like even just in the way that they are allowed to be, the way that they are protected emotionally, the way that it affirms that, you know, even other families, you know, other kinds of families, like Luke doesn't have parents, you know, he has his aunt and uncle, but Owen has that triumphant hero moment of he is my own. Like that's a moment that like
bad motherfucker. Him and Baru.
Baru is about that life, dude. Baru was about someone's coming, moves the bush, like immediately.
I love to do in the immortal words of the great American poet Kendrick Lamar. I know that's a running joke on this channel, so this will be the newest quote to add to that quiver. In the words of the great American poet Kendrick Lamar, my blick first, then God got me.
My blaster first and the force got me. That's what Baru said. But yeah, like it's all there. And the kids, like,
I think that's the first time I did that with GNX, guys. Let's go.
We're relevant. We're culturally relevant. Oh yeah, like, and then of course there is the come on Spider-Man moment, as I call it, under the rocks. Yeah, and it's like it's not. Yeah, he's already remembered that he's a Jedi. Like the remembering is there, and that's what caused him to even do this in the first place, to bait him into this duel and to you know, to buy the time for the refugees and everything. Like he's there, he's at 95%, but that last 5 that allows him to get the light side power buff, that allows him to start doing prequel choreography again, that allows him to really become Obi-Wan again, as a combatant and as a hero, as a Jedi Knight, is those flashes of like, oh, it's not about me. Just in the same way that Scrooge sees, like, they don't have food, like they don't have anything, like, and they're still happy. Like that's the thing, like they still have love. And like he sees that like Luke is growing up probably with his like because Ben's not wrong. That's the thing. Ben's not wrong that he should have started training him when he wanted to in this show, because that's the fucking point of that Yoda makes. Like literally, Owen probably should have been like, yeah, you're right. But Owen's not wrong either.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's multiple truths happening. And Ben has to realize, like, shit, I've been like thinking about them like assets, but I haven't been thinking about them as children. And that's like in the flashes, you see Luke, you know, play piloting. You see the quick flash of Leia doing the I want to float, like when she like does the little spin. Like, yeah, those are the moments that come to his mind. He's not having flashes of younglings with their training sabers. He stops thinking about them as future employees. And once that stops, and it's like, oh, like we're gonna be okay because they're better than we are already, and they're 10. That's Christmas.
Yeah, and I mean, and something that when you know, with Obi-Wan's "Come on, Spider-Man" moment, the way you put it, you know, it's one of my favorite things about the show is that, you know, especially like in the versus context, you know, Spencer and I have talked about this a lot when we cover Obi-Wan, is we often see that, like, you give yourself over to one of the sides of the Force fully in a moment, and you are able to do shit that on a normal day you couldn't do. And normally that's framed as somebody tapping into the dark side and kind of losing control. It's Anakin with Count Dooku and Sith. It's Luke with Vader when he beats him in Jedi. You know, that brief moment. And what I think is also very Christmassy, very Grinch, and his like Herculean, lifting all of the sleigh up. It's Obi-Wan fully giving himself over to the light side, and for about 5 minutes, low-key being a Force god. Feats of telekinesis we've never even seen hints of from him before. He's doing shit that you see in animation and in video games in a very brief moment. And it's because of that, that very Christmassy restoration of the self. That's just another added little piece of season.
Because not like he's getting there after. It's not like he's doing it in the next 9 years and in New Hope. He's not. But the point is that, like you're saying, like moms lifting cars to save their children.
Yes,
it's those freak moments of like all the circumstances are right now, and it's like you don't need, like, if you imagine the years after Hook, do I really literally think that Peter Banning / Peter Pan really let his children keep all the house windows open all the time forever? No, I fucking don't. He still had to raise kids. Like, it's still not a safe thing to do. But in that moment, when he's like, what did I tell you about these windows? Always leave them open. Never, ever shut them. Like, it's that, like, God bless us. Like, we're so peak right now. We've never been more back spiritually. So it's like, like that is the moment. That is the moment when, like, if this was not a Star Wars film and it was just Christmas with Ewan McGregor and Vivian Lyra Blair and Hayden Christensen, he would have rushed into her room with a bunch of packages and presents and cookies and all that stuff. That's the moment. In the structure of Christmas, that is it. And then, him saying goodbye to her on Alderaan is, whenever Santa leaves any kid in any movie. That's, whenever he says goodbye to literally any child, it's always that, let me get down to eye level, let me tell you that I'll always be here if you ever need anything. But no one can know, like, this is the kind of thing that only, like, even, I mean, we're not getting into the Doctor Who tangent because then we'll be here all night, but like the Doctor Who Christmas specials and even episodes that aren't the Christmas specials paint him in this light too. That's why he lends himself to that. There's no Star Wars, Star Trek, James Bond, Batman. I mean, there is a Batman Christmas special, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, none of the other big IP have that tradition, but the Doctor does because he falls into this. And Obi-Wan is kind of put in that role. That's why the Doctor has that line as Capaldi when he's, I think it's when he's regenerating. Yeah, when he's like, that children can hear your name, but no one, he's talking to the next incarnation. And it's like, yeah, children are always at the core of what Star Wars is doing. I mean, that's what we're seeing in Skeleton Crew right now, despite not having a lot of the tropes we're talking about, and therefore it wouldn't qualify unless fucking out of nowhere they're about to hit us with a Life Day special and we don't know, which would be hilarious.
Hey, there's an episode coming out on Christmas Eve. You
never know. And one of them is 17 minutes long, allegedly. So it's like, who knows? But the kids in that are right. Jod is wrong. That's why I love that Revenge of the Sith novel quote. Like, but the younglings are right and their masters are wrong, or the adults are wrong, whatever the wording is. That is so fundamental to everything that has happened in Star Wars forever. The child is always right, which is why, of course, I resent that the only one that gets its, like, knob slobbed on lately is the one that had to gut all this out of it. But it's like, which I love. I slobbed the knob.
We all love Andor.
But I wasn't going to say
conversations about Andor that we don't enjoy.
I'm just saying, Luthen Rail went down the path where he never had his Peter Banning to Peter Pan moment, and that's part of the issue.
I
Look,
truly
if
hope
you don't, if you
Andor
don't,
season 2 is Luthen becoming Peter Pan.
dude, if you don't feel something, when little boy grabs Robin Williams' face and does the "There you are, Peter," you're dead. You're
I
dead.
was weeping. You
It's
can
that-
ask Taylor. I was weeping, and I know because you and I have talked about that scene so many times. And again, sitting down and watching Hook beginning to the end for the first time in a while, and I know it's coming. There you are, Peter. Just ugly crying. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, no, like it has everything, and it's that, and it's also very Star Warsy moment that feels like Kenobi is like when Obi-Wan sort of like becomes who he is again. Like Obi-Wan saving her from Fortress Inquisitorius. Like Hook doesn't have a scene like that. Doesn't have a rescue scene like that. Although he does kind of rescue the kids from the pirate ship.
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say. I would say
yeah,
him
he
like
does.
doing his
Yeah.
smash and grab during the battle would be.
Yeah. But like when Rufio finally gets it and he catches up with everybody else and he's like, "You can bite, you can fly, you can," and then Peter cuts him off and does the crow.
Oh, yeah.
It's the fucking most triumphant thing. And you can see characters in this show reacting to Obi-Wan like he needs to catch up to them.
Yeah. Yeah, with the Hook
everybody else
comparisons, Tala does it. Tala does
Yeah.
it when they're on Naboo. She's like, I can't imagine Obi-Wan Kenobi ever doing anything like that. You know, where she calls him by his true name. It's the Peter Banning Ben versus Obi-Wan Peter Pan.
Yeah, because he uses Ben very defensively here. I think in Legends it just kind of happens.
Yeah,
and like other people have had their headcanons of blah 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 blah. Like I know that Filoni made it so that Satine calls him that, right?
Yeah.
Or did someone else? So like
Filoni. No, in Clone Wars, she calls him Ben as like a pet name.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Is that like in Clone Wars, George and Filoni made it so that the Ben name has been implied to be around since his affair with her.
He uses it as a code name during the box arc too.
Yeah. So it's like it had a place, but like even that becomes a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
He throws it up and he's like, it's Ben now. Like he has to undercut. And yeah, I've been rambling. Spencer's been downloading a lot of information right now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Spencer, how are you? How are you starting to get Kenobi Christmas pilled yet? How are you feeling?
I mean,
Oh, we lost you.
You're back. No, he's back. He's just muted.
Oh,
You're muted in stream. There you go.
and you muted yourself again. There you go.
I don't know how I got muted, but I attempted to unmute and it ended up muting. Anyway, do I think that I will from here on look upon Kenobi as a Christmas show? Probably not, but I've been soaking up all that Alden has been saying, and I'm like, he's got some good points. Like when we think about, and in all respect, yeah, when we think about like the classic Christmas movies, the classic Christmas stories, especially Dickens. I am a huge fan of Dickens. Like you can maybe right here in my bookshelf, this row right here, I've got Nicholas Nickleby, I've got The Christmas Carol and Other Christmas Stories, I've got David Copperfield, I've got Great Expectations. Like I'm a huge Dickens fan. I love the way that he writes, the way that he describes things in a very comical way. It's like his tongue is planted firmly in his cheek as he's writing stuff. And in A Christmas Story, you have, or in a Christmas Carol rather, from the Dickens story, you have exactly as Alden has described. You have a character who is seeing the past, and it's like, wow, this is great. I remember this, but it's painful. In the same way that you have Obi-Wan, who is seeing like, oh, I remember the order, but it's painful. And you have your present, which is mostly painful. Like you can talk about toxic nostalgia all day long. In the case of these stories, the nostalgia is very positive.
Yeah.
With the Christmas Carol, with Kenobi, like the Order was like he was thriving. Forget Satine for a second. He was thriving in the Order. He was thriving with his part as in the Order as a council member, as a leading general of the war. He was thriving. You have then like the Christmas Future, where it's like what is coming is incredibly grim, and
Everyone's dead and your brother's responsible.
Right. And in the present moment, he has this like, there are some things which can be fixed, which can be resolved. Like you have the like you were talking about tiny Tim being like all of the little Jedi. I love it. But I've literally been soaking up. It's and
I think you're right. Like the president, especially about him thriving. Like that, I've said this before, like half jokingly, but it's true. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Kit Fisto, these are guys that love their job. Like there are a lot of people that like the Jedi. It's like Mace Windu, even Yoda to an extent, or like Key, or like there are people that are very like, these are fantasy archetype men that like very put upon. Even older Ahsoka. I said men. It's not even really a gender thing, because like Ahsoka gets to that place. Luminara was definitely in that place.
Big time on Luminara.
This is duty. Like I don't, it's work, but it's important work. There's a greater calling, and like these are not swashbucklers that enjoy their job. Obi-Wan does. Obi-Wan
loves this shit. He loves to clock in.
Yeah, Obi-Wan loves his job. He loves like messing with his little mustache. He loves hitting his pose. He loves dropping down. He loves a little remark. Like this was a good time in his life. And when you look at the transition to the present, it's like he doesn't want to have to confront the darkness of it, but much like Scrooge, he doesn't want to look back at his failed engagement. He doesn't want to look back at the estrangement from his from Fezwig, who in the Muppets version lives but is dead in all the other versions. Like it doesn't. He doesn't have the ability to have closure, so he's like, I'm not going to face any of it. But he's defined by it. You're not. You don't think you think you're pushing it away, but it's all over you. And it's like he can't actually have any peace until he's finally starting to parse the good from the bad. And that, I love the conversation with Leia of like, are you my real father? Because he starts to go back as far as he possibly can. As far, like his version of like Scrooge's like schoolboy days is like thinking to before he was recruited, just like the baby memories that you have that probably only a wizard could pull, where he's like, I remember my mom's shawl, my father's hands, and a baby. I think I had a brother. And Leia's like, oh, that baby. And then he says, but then I found the Jedi and I got a new family. And it's the first time that like he remembers that was his family, not a list of casualties. That was his family, not a bunch of dead people that he used to work with. And then once he's like, that was my family, the shift starts. And look, he still gets his fucking ass beat in that episode. And like it's hardly it's hardly the going over the hill is still coming. But that phrasing, that change, because when Bale comes to him and is like, she's just as important as Luke is. Like, this is the sister. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're the only one. And he's like, find someone else. He has forgotten that, like, oh, if the Jedi are family, and they were, and Anakin was family, and he was / is, then this is family. Like, and that you have to arrive at that conclusion. And then on the other side is Reva, who represents a part of the present that is the grim part of the present. Reva is the fact that there are poor people in London. Reva is the fact that there are people that don't have food. Reva is also arrives at the conclusion that she has arrived at for years and held as she's worked her way up in the Inquisitorius just to get close to Anakin, to strike her revenge. but she knows, yeah, that is family. She's just coming at it with all the malice. And then at the end, when she's like, have I become him? That's every Christmas character that's like, am I becoming an asshole like my dad? Am I ruining the holidays? Am I a failure? The dinner's burned, the lights got ripped off the house, all that stuff. Have I become him?
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan's like, no, you've chosen not to. But he's also talking to himself. Not that he was ever at the risk of falling into the dark side, but he was at the risk of
becoming cynical.
Yeah. Being utterly useless and doing nothing for the future.
Permanently cynical.
If Obi-Wan doesn't go through this arc, and let's say, obviously that has horrible implications for Leia, and maybe she's hurt or whatever or dies. But like, ignoring Leia for a second, like if Obi-Wan doesn't go through this arc, it's not that he doesn't have a place in New Hope time. Like, he might still get called upon because obviously this is a card that Bale has been waiting to play if need be. Yeah. But like, he's not showing up like rah, it's time. Like, he'd be showing up like, all right, like,
here we go.
Even more, even older, even more out of practice. That force muscle has atrophied even more.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the training would have fallen on Yoda, who knows what place he would be in having then lost Obi-Wan. So it's it all hinges here. If Obi-Wan doesn't come to this place, I thought about this a lot while rewatching this. Is he at all qualified to have the little come to Jesus talk with Ezra? Not at all. Because his entire conversation with Ezra is like, you're in the wrong place, friend. Like, it's literal, but it's also like, oh, no. We have a story over here. You have a story over there. They're both important.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just come over here because you think I can solve over there. We both
and if
work.
you're Yoda in the High Republic or in the Galactic Republic days, like, imagine thinking about Obi-Wan in all of his prestige, in all of his accomplishment, and then like 15 years down the line, he's just completely inept. Like, what happened to you, man? Like, I was counting on you. And so this arc allows Obi-Wan to step into that role where he's
if Obi-Wan doesn't go on this journey, like, who does it fall to? Cal?
Yeah.
We're cooked. We're cooked.
And if he continues where he's at, just packing meat day after day, then where does that put Luke? Where does that put Yoda come episodes 4 and 5? Where Yoda is getting like, okay, Yoda comes at it like, okay, Obi-Wan taught you the basics and I trust Obi-Wan. Imagine that circumstance where Yoda has to start from square one without Ben there. Like, that's
and there's also like
seemingly small detail, but it is potentially really.
I mean, the Battle of Yavin doesn't end well. Like, we don't even get there. Yavin 4 is annihilated.
No, it would not. It's like, yes, it is possible that there's a version of New Hope where Luke gets roped in, or because Bale, obviously we're applying a lot of canon to that movie where it obviously did not exist, but like, I could see God, Obi-Wan sucks now. All right, I'll go pick up the brother. I'll sit them down. Surprise, you have a brother. Surprise, you have a sister. Like, there's a version. Bale and Breya.
Someone get Tano on the horn, goddamn.
Right. Like, where's Riva? Let's get, where's Grease? Like, just like, there's like everyone from the dark time. Like, give me 20-year-old Omega. Like, Bale starts putting together a squad of people out of desperation. But like, in all seriousness,
it's like the Dark Time Suicide Squad to make up for Obi-Wan.
When you look at a lot of these movies too, whether it's the Santa Claus, whether it's Elf, whether it's even Narnia to a certain degree, but like, there's a lot of the cynicism of the holidays doesn't allow you to see people for the value that they have. This is in Hook as well, like how everybody I forget his Lost Boy name, but the homie's looking for his marbles, and everybody just like writes it's Toodles.
Toodles, yeah.
Toodles looking for his marbles, and everyone writes him off as just being like an Alzheimer's patient or like whatever. And it's like, no, he like was really fixated on it because he remembers something that the rest of reality doesn't remember, and because he didn't lose his inner child. And so the spirit reawakening in you and allowing you to see the worth in others is a huge thing. And that happens here with Obi-Wan, especially through Haja. I made this point on Twitter once, and Kumail even jumped on it and shared it. And it's that like this is his first encounter, probably since the Clone Wars, with a true bullshitter, but a bullshitter with a heart of gold. And Obi-Wan knows how to deal with these types. He used to know really well how to deal with these types. He was a negotiator. He fucking palled around with Hondo Ohnaka. Like, this used to be a type that he encountered a lot. Then he meets Haja, and he's kind of like, okay, like, you con those people out of their money. You're a bad guy. But then he's like, it's never that simple. It was never that simple. And he reconnects, and by the end, he trusts Haja with Leia's life.
Yeah.
And what does that do? It opens his eyes so that when he meets other bullshitters like Han Solo, he's able to realize, oh, okay, you have value. You don't think you do, but you do. Like, that's the beauty of Alec Guinness's performance, putting so much color on things that weren't yet defined. Like, just because he's an incredible god tier actor, like when he says, like, he's describing the Millennium Falcon, and Obi-Wan's delivery of "should I have heard of it?" Like, that little, like, he already knows exactly who Han Solo is. Han Solo thinks he's special. Obi-Wan's like, oh, you're Hondo, you're Haja, you're all these guys. Got it. You'll come through. But that comes from somebody who is open. It does not happen if he's closed off, because Luke is immediately like, fuck this guy, we'll go find another pilot. Like, that's the impetuous youth of somebody that has not been humbled, has not opened up their experience. And outside of the Christmas conversation, I believe it was Joseph Scrimshaw that I first heard this analysis from. But like, when you look at Jedi and they meet the Ewoks for the first time, everyone is panicking or ready to fight or threatened except Luke. Because Luke already went through this with Yoda. Luke has already met the small creature that you underestimate, that seems like it's crazy or seems like it's worthless or seems like it's a waste of time or whatever it is that's frustrating you or even threatening you in this case. And Han is like, point that thing somewhere else. And Chewie's roaring and the droids are freaking out. But Luke is kind of just looking around like, all right, I get it. All right, let's figure out what the common ground is. I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to try to, fight over my lunch tray again. Like, I got it. And that comes from the Jedi lessons. That comes from remembering them. And
Oh, Alden, you're too goddamn good at this.
I know. I feel like, how can we argue?
But no, so were there any of the other themes? Because I know we kind of got into like the structure, and that took us down a couple other.
No, sure. I mean, like,
streets.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're looking at, like, reevaluating life. We've touched on starting over is key. I mean, like, that's hugely key. I mean, that's in him remembering himself as a toddler. That's in flashing back to the training. That's in all of that.
That's another one. The training is one that I think is really crucial, and one we haven't really touched on much. Is that, like, in that whole, like, again, like the reevaluation, especially because for very many in both like film and in film language and also in the real world, we're like the mixed bag that this time of year is. Like, Alden, not to put your shit in the street, but like, you're not a big holiday or even birthday guy, and you have a birthday in December. I say not to put your shit in the street. I watched you talk about it on air a couple days ago.
That's true.
So, like, but still, not to tell tales out of school. For me, whenever I was on the Blathering with Ken last week, I was talking all about, the Christmas time is nothing but good for me. Like, I work in retail. Most people would think I would hate Christmas, and it's my favorite time of year with this job. Because I just have so much fun knowing that, like, oh, like, I know someone's getting this for Christmas, and that brings me joy knowing that I got to be a part of that. And, it's like, oh, I want to get them this, but what would they wear it with? Like, I have this whole outfit over here, actually. I love that. And, Spencer, you have a very different angle on all of this because, obviously I know you like this time of year, and, obviously you come from a more religious background than either of us. So like it's but I think for most people, there is the grab bag of emotions this time of year.
Yeah.
Again, I've been fortunate enough that I, knock on wood, I don't have any like losses in my life that when I start to celebrate Christmas, I don't go, fuck, I wish they were here. Like, again, I'm very lucky. I am very lucky that is not an albatross I have to worry about around this time of year. I'm aware of that luck that I've gotten to 26 years old, and that's not a problem I have. But in the way that
and
is
I think
a reality,
everybody knows one who does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, for
at
sure.
least a few people.
For sure. And that's there in that, like, the episode is directed and framed in a way that Vader's the one thinking about it. Not Obi-Wan. It never flashes from Ewan to the fight. It's always Vader mask, Attack of the Clones, Vader mask, Attack of the Clones. Like, it's him
I think it does one time, but then it immediately goes back to Vader after the flashback.
Like,
so it's still hammering.
Vader is representative of the person that's like, I fucking hate Christmas so much. I gotta fucking shop. I gotta fucking, oh my God, I gotta see this guy. He's gonna bring up that shit he always brings up. And then we're gonna like Vader is that to the like opera evil degree in this moment. And it does require everybody to have to face difficult things, to unpack things. Even Tala's got to bring up her mistakes, right? Roken brings up the fact that he is in this metaphorical Christmas without his wife. He's a widower and he lost her, and Haja Haja rejoins the main characters because he says, I have nowhere to go, I have no one. Like, which is also a thing that happens in holiday films of like, there's the character. I mean, that's Planes, Trains. Like, that's
also
the
a big
crux
part of the ref.
Now, someone that doesn't have anyone, and it's
Sorry, but the thing with the training sequence that I think is really important, that like you said, like, it's not necessarily Obi-Wan recalling it, but I think it is emblematic of the way that, like, making peace with hard memories, that I think is so important to the self-actualization element here, that like Obi-Wan has to rely on these memories of how Anakin operates in combat and just as a person to then go, he does not have the patience for like a days-long siege. He's gonna try to blitzkrieg it, and the only way for us to get out of this is if we try to do something honestly equally insane to something Anakin Skywalker would have done at the height of the war, and gamble with my life like a lunatic.
And then we're gonna do the old rope-a-dope with these two ships.
Yeah, do the rope-a-dope with the shuttle. But like but that then paves the way for the conversation that had everybody weeping when the final episode came out, with the where he's talking about, you got this, that, and this from your mother, and you got this, that, and that from your father. And I think that is another thing where like that training sequence kind of shows like, not only did Obi-Wan love his job, he loved doing his job with Anakin. Like that was his work buddy. That was like I'm clocked in for the day, and oh shit, he's on the schedule today too.
Throughout the show, he is in episode 2 and episode 3 and 5 and the finale, and I'm sure times I'm forgetting. He's constantly thinking about both Anakin and Padme. Yeah, because the trio of that era was the trio of that era, and he's the only one left. And he has to ferry around,
and he witnessed the death of 2 of them.
Yes, one of them he thinks he killed until he finds out he didn't.
Yeah. The psychological element of that is astounding.
He had to hear the dying words of one of his friends as she said there's still good in him, while on her deathbed, lying by omission. Not lying by omission, but nodding along to her words while being like, I just fucking murdered him. There's no good in him.
On fire. On fire.
There's still good in him, and he's like,
he may still be on fire.
Like literally
he may still be on fire.
So it's like he's finally allowed to have peace from that. Like, and that's why it's like, everyone that immediately after that, why would he just walk away after you don't get it? I'm sorry, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the point was not let's have round 2 to finish it. The point was round 2 exists to take you off the board so the refugees can get away with the princess and all my friends. And now I have the opportunity that I know I didn't kill you to really show you that I won't, that I've evolved past it, that I forgive myself for the first time, and the future will take care of it. It's never that Obi-Wan doesn't think, because people love to get all cute and try to be like, but Alden, he advocates for Vader's death in the OT. Him and Yoda.
I didn't
say
know
that
you
Vader
had
needs
so
to
many
be
passionate
defeated.
Star Wars debates with Donald John Trump.
And it's just this, honestly, like some of you do sound Trumpian with the stupid shit that you say online. But it's like he literally like advocates for his death, Alden. So how are you gonna? I understand that. Obi-Wan does not come to the conclusion at the end of this show that Vader should like go on a redemption tour. He comes to the conclusion that he is not going to be executioner.
Yeah.
It is not my place anymore. As they say on Force Center, Ken and Joseph have beautifully described this. It's not about winning a duel. It's about ending the cycle of violence. You know, goodbye, Darth, is his way of saying, I mean, it's obviously the cute little, we thought it was his first name when we made that first movie. But like, goodbye, Darth is, yeah, you're right. You want to claim killing Anakin Skywalker? Then let's not talk about him.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Darth Vader. And for Darth Vader, I'm clocking out. For Darth Vader, I'm taking my plate of leftovers and I'm going to have Christmas with people I care about. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm removing myself, which fucking sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
But you gotta do that. There are people that like are going to go back for more and back for more and back for more every year, every dinner. And it's horrible and nothing ever gets fixed. But there are friends that will take you.
Yeah.
You'll probably have a great time. Sometimes that friend is a moisture farmer that doesn't actually really like you that much. But like he's there.
Still. Yeah. What a great analogy that is.
Farmer who doesn't like you that much. Well, and I do love that because Alden, like the only like a minute bit of pushback I will offer to that, and it's more of like a thematic. It's like Obi-Wan having like trying to talk to Qui-Gon, where he's like holding his lightsaber in that cargo hold, and he's like, "This is it. Like this either ends with me dead or him dead."
Yeah,
and whatever it is, I have to do it.
Yeah,
and
I don't disagree that he thought that'd be the conclusion.
But I do love the fact that like after he demonstrates, you're done. If I want it to be the end of Darth Vader, it's over today.
Yeah.
But it is that like everything you said of like, I'm not going to be your executioner. Frankly, I can't do it. And my mission from here on out is to bring up the generation that might be able to defeat you for good and do it with less baggage than I can.
And and also, or at least different baggage. I think he knows that if the twins are the ones, it'll be a whole different type of baggage. But like, in the same way that
that's true. But we could also that also like opens up the can of worms of like when, if ever, did Obi-Wan plan on telling the truth? And that's its own
and who is going to tell? Like that's a canon story that I would love, which is Yoda, Bail, and Obi, Owen, Beru, Brea. Like, was there ever at this age, you'll say this part, you'll say this part, you'll say this part, you'll say that. Like, we'll tackle this together. Like, who knows? But like, I would love the like comment, maybe from a certain point of view, Revenge of the Sith. You know, like the conversations between we've always wanted a baby girl and the scenes. Like, show me the rest of that. Show me the logistics. You know, but. Yeah, like in the same way that Luke very clearly and historically triumphantly doesn't make his decision until he sees the black glove, and that's when I gotta not do
wired
this.
stump, black glove. Oh shit!
Yeah, Obi-Wan's is seeing his face, and once he sees his face, and it's like, oh, there's another option. It's not I'm dead, he's dead, and that's it. There's also this. And I think that the beauty of it is that he just spent a decade living in the timeline where he killed his brother.
Huh.
And when he sees his face, it really, because the whole time he's only been seeing Vader, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He's only seen Vader. I am what you made me. And
The
then,
literal face of death.
yeah, I am what you made me in episode 3, and episode 6 becomes I am what remains, which is the same idea, but it's way more unsettling
different.
and way more personal.
Yeah.
And once he hears that and sees his face, it's that moment of like, I just spent a decade being my brother's executioner, and I'm not going to spend more time like that.
Wow.
I don't have to anymore, and I'm not going to. And that is like, even outside of just like the Christmas mythos, even though it is in a lot of Christmas films, the I know who I am, you don't have to, usually with parents and their kids, like it's that moment of like, oh, I maybe don't forgive you. We're not there yet. That's your son's job, but I forgive me, and I forgive Qui-Gon, and I forgive what we stand for. And I acknowledge that like a lot of bad is on us, but like we were not a net evil. It's like how people can watch something like the prequel trilogy or the Acolyte and come away with the conclusion Jedi bad when stories like this exist is asinine to me. Absolutely fucking asinine. The point has never been Jedi bad. The point is Jedi stumble. And sometimes they all stumble democratically. And like sometimes people notice that they're stumbling and get in there. But that's a whole other thing. Go on Disney Plus and watch the movies. But
no, I love that so much. And I think that there's also like kind of to, again, very cautiously go down a Doctor Who adjacent side street. Knowing the three of us, that could get out of control very quickly. But I also think, especially in the Christmas context of this conversation, I love this idea that it's very everybody lives. That, correct me if I'm wrong, that is also a Christmas Doctor Who story. It's not Eccleston's Christmas special. Obviously, he didn't have one.
Yeah, but I believe it is.
But Empty Child is taking place at Christmas time.
Justice Once, everybody lives. Yeah.
And I love, but I think there's also some of that. Like Obi-Wan refuses to kill Vader, and obviously, even though they were happening concurrently, and there's no like cosmically one did not beget the other necessarily, but Obi-Wan spares Vader. And at the same time, Reva, of her own volition, nobody telling her this isn't the right thing to do, can't bring herself to hurt Luke. At the end of the day, she's all this bluster, and she's pissed off because she just got hit in the head how many times by Owen and Beru. Reva's got a little bit of like Dark Jedi CTE going at this point, after like the third flower pot. And, and she's, lightsaber up and can't do it. And I think that conversely,
the baton of forgiveness goes even further because she rolls back up to the homestead with this 10-year-old body in her arms, and he looks dead. And there's that moment of like, what the fuck is going on? You could see everybody tense, and then Luke kind of sighs and kind of moves and
jostles in his
unconscious state. And it's like either of the Larses could have shot her. Obi-Wan could have run her down with like a one strike, boom, boom. Like
he could have Darth Mauled.
Anything could have happened.
or sent her airborne with the Force once she put his body down.
Anything could have happened, but there's that feeling of like, we've all been through enough. Obi-Wan just went through this, and it's like, everybody lives extends to you too. And you were one of the kids that we let down. Like so much of Christmas, especially like with Scrooge, is like, my Christmases were terrible. I spent them alone, all these different things. I was at school. I didn't have this enrichment. And he says like, I love Michael Caine's delivery in the Muppet version because I just saw it where he talks about like, I forget the exact quote, but it's the implication that like the one you're watching, they were all like this. There wasn't ever a one that got better. And Riva, I'm not gonna call this person out. Jared did a TikTok response to this person when it happened. But there was somebody, and a lot of people share this belief that like Riva somehow makes the show less about Kenobi and Vader. Like they should have had the spotlight, but they did this Riva story, and it's like it's supposed to be about Kenobi. You cannot adequately address that conflict without talking about the fallout of that conflict. These two guys were two of the paragons of that era, the two great heroes, the ones, and then
The
it
hero
all
without
crumbled on their
fear
watch.
and the negotiator who trained him.
Yeah.
Yes.
It all
Yes.
crumbles on their watch. And so, like, you don't want to interrogate the results of that crumbling. We've seen the results for some people, Kanan Jarrus, Yoda, of course, but like there were also kids, and like it's the lingering darkest thing that Star Wars has ever done in 2005. The one moment that some parents were like, Jesus, like that it went too far with that moment of him and the lightsaber, and like it scares a lot of people as Source Bandim steps up and says, Master Skywalker, what are we going to do? And I've always contended that Source Bandim is one of the most Jedi of all time, even as a little baby, because he steps up and says, what are we going to do? He's ready. And he would have helped Anakin if Anakin really was there in a heroic context. But he failed all those kids. But what if we got to interrogate that and show somebody that was really affected by it? And Riva is the kid who had Christmas robbed from her. If the Force in this context is the Christmas magic and the spirit, Riva has had it completely nullified. And then by the end, as I talked about with the gift of forgiveness, it's the affirmation of no, you didn't become that, and also now you can be whoever you want to be. You have the ability to remake it however you want to remake it, and that's so beautiful that like even she gets that. As Obi-Wan framed it as like, that's my family and I miss them, to Leia, and Riva framed it as, that was my family, he slaughtered them and I had to play dead with the bodies and feel them go cold. They both have framed them in the same context, but with positive memory and a horror show. And now here we are in the middle. We both lost it, but we can both remake it however we want. And I think that a Riva story, either in the Rebels era or the OT or like anything, it's like it would be one of the most money things, however they want to do it, because she has in a lot of ways what people have wanted. When Ben Solo died, when Trilla died, when all these things went down, which I don't disagree with any of those. I'm not one of those fans. Not that it's a bad way to be, but like it's a complaint you hear a lot. Like Star Wars doesn't actually think you can change. It doesn't actually think. I don't agree with that, but I get it. This was the
cost of redemption is your life, and you're right. She's like kind of the last person standing. It's like her and Agent Kallus are the only people who came back from the brink and didn't pay for it with their lives. So I think you're absolutely on the money with that, 100%. And I don't know what kind of stupid schmo would think that Riva is unimportant to this story and has no place in it.
I'm gonna ask the aliens, but
same.
Yeah. So it's important, and we could go on.
I think Spencer just figured out who it was from that little show.
Yeah.
I'm looking at these are all good thoughts for sure.
I'm just looking at the notes here just to see if there's anything else. I mean, I think we basically covered everything. Like there are little details that we can get into throughout. I mean, like little Leia, of course, is just a consummate great child hero. And she's adorable, and she, you can get very literal with some of this about like I mentioned the gloves and everything, how like he buys those for her, and like the very like begrudging dad figure on Christmas and all the things that happen. The fact that like Lola is a toy, that she's very attached to, and like how that presence of like trying to preserve toys and like don't corrupt the imaginative play, like when Lola goes evil for half an episode and then Leia fixes it, like all these little things that like.
Well, I do like. I did want to bring up the Leia element because it's one of those things that like I see people talk about all the time, like Obi-Wan Kenobi could have been so good, but then again, there's like the weird anti-Reva shit that, like you said, never makes sense to me. She's so crucial to this story. But you also have the people complain about the chase on Alderaan, and I get it. I as much as I love, I've said before, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite Star Wars show. Pardon my hiccups. I also I love the Book of Boba Fett. I'm also willing to say that maybe some of the action sequences in both of those shows were blocked kind of funny and paced kind of weirdly. And I 100% think that is a product of them being COVID productions.
Sure.
I don't think you can. I think that not giving the grace to a lot of shows in the early 2020s, okay, this is weird and it looks kind of bad, but also COVID, so that's probably why of it all. So I get why people don't love that chase with Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers and everything, but like Leia evading those mercenaries, and then the way Leia, for all intents and purposes, tells Reva to go fuck herself right to her face. You also get that like heroic, like impetuous child, like archetype that is also present in a lot of Christmas media. Like you obviously Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. Like it's like her with those guys who kidnap her is very Kevin McAllister. Down to like some of these guys like running into each other like the Wet Bandits. It's very the kids in Polar Express who are like, these death-defying stunts on the train.
And it's also kids don't, in a lot of Santa Claus stories in particular, they'll meet him and they have doubts. They don't actually think it's him, or other adults are undermining the idea that it might be him. And Leia, for episodes one, she doesn't meet him, but in episode 2, she doesn't believe that he's a Jedi until she almost dies.
Yeah.
Like until she was falling to her death off a building and he catches her, she finally like, oh wow. Like you actually
a Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did want to touch on that as well. And then obviously we talked with Luke and like the giving the gift of it all and what the gift represents in this context. But yeah, I think we did it, guys. I think we did Star Wars Christmas.
And if you disagree, tough. Right? Because again, the assignment here is not Spencer, but at the viewers. The assignment here is not this is a Christmas story, period. The assignment is this is the definitive Star Wars story for Christmas. You can't find a better argument in the canonical stories. You simply cannot.
If you have one, throw it in the comments. I'd love to read that. I would love to read that. And
I won't read it, but Jared will tell me about it.
I will send Alden screenshots of the comment section, provided it is not mean. And if there are any that are super insightful, I might even send it to Spencer.
You never know.
Well, the very idea that I am presented as the argument against Alden's thoughts,
not the argument against, but slightly more skeptic, because you have a higher bar, not in terms of quality, but in terms of like requirement to hit the Christmas threshold.
Right. For classification's sake, yeah. I have I think a higher bar than Alden, but I will say, for the record, greatly enjoyed Alden's analysis of Kenobi as a Star Wars Christmas show. And I will say this in a pleasant way. As somebody who enjoys It's a Wonderful Life as their favorite Christmas movie, but enjoys Charles Dickens as one of their favorite authors, period. I was pleasantly surprised. I will say this. I went into this episode thinking that we would be mostly analyzing the show in terms of like It's a Wonderful Life type classifications and comparisons. And I was just delighted. to find as many of the Dickensian analysis points being met. I was just like, yes, because it's such a good Christmas story. somebody who has looked into the past, is analyzing the present, and is thinking to the future, and all of this is being revealed before them in explicit detail. And it's just like, wow, this is great stuff. I was
really like
I was not
Christmas Carol,
expecting the Dickensian element, but I loved it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you loved it. And I think like, you know, we touched on a lot of stuff, and like there's a lot of like, I think the It's Wonderful Life is really like about like Ben's soul. It's always about the person. Like the other day I was talking to a friend of mine, and she had never seen it and recently became obsessed with it and was like, this is like one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, you know why you like it? She goes, why? I was like, because it's a depressed person's classic. I was like, It's a Wonderful Life is like a consummate depressed person movie. Like he's probably one of the greatest like clinically depressed characters ever. Like you would like hitting bottom, and then by the end, like you're listening to them sing, and you're just like, I believe in life again. Like it's so beautiful. But broadly, the Christmas Carol structure is so timeless, and that it's like if you can inject the personal journey of It's a Wonderful Life into A Christmas Carol, you kind of have what Obi-Wan goes through. Because A Christmas Carol, ultimately, at the end, the beautiful, really simple, like fortune cookie affirmation of A Christmas Carol is there's still time. That's it.
Yes.
There's still time. Because Scrooge is old in almost every adaptation. So there is the thought of like, fuck, like, is it too late for him? And the story always makes it clear, like, no, he lived for many more years and became a fixture.
Yeah, and he wakes up from this whole narrative, and he like opens up the window shutters, and he says, what day is it? He says it's Christmas Day, and he says it's not too late.
I haven't missed it. Yeah,
exactly,
like I can
exactly.
And he immediately like puts money into the community and like does all this stuff. Like he starts making the most of it. And they say like in the narration of several versions, but like nobody embodied Christmas more than Ebenezer Scrooge. Like that's what they would say about him after that.
Yeah, it was like when you thought of the spirit of Christmas, you thought of Scrooge, which is a turnaround. And with Obi-Wan, you have somebody who likewise is so dejected, and by the end of this first season, if we get more, I haven't been paying attention to if we're going to get more, but like by the end of this first season, you have somebody who's so dejected with the Jedi experience and with what it means to be a Jedi, with the Christmas spirit, if you will. And then by the end of it, he is like, no, I am determined to be, for this next generation, the exemplar of the Christmas spirit, of like of the Jedi philosophy. And by the time you get to Luke, he's still in hiding. Granted, Ben is still in hiding, but he still is for the next generation that exemplar of.
But it's a hiding, like he goes from, I'll borrow Sam Witwer's phrasing, like he's on guard. Like he goes from like, I'm just in exile to this is the most important guard post in the galaxy, I think is what Witwer said. Like
I think you're right.
And it's like he is now like I mean, look, as Star Wars fans, if you surveyed us, most of the time, if you said who is the most Jedi, not your favorite, who's the most Jedi, could be your favorite. Most people are like,
would say Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Now, you look at part 1 of this show, and he tells Nari,
who the heck is this guy?
The fight is done. We lost.
Yeah.
You want my advice? Take that, walk into the desert, bury it, move on. Like, how is that the guy that we've all been saying is because he has to remember that he was that guy, that he could be that guy. And by the time you get to New Hope, it's like when he's back in the game, it's like, I'll put my lightsaber out in Mos Eisley Cantina because fuck it. We're back.
Yeah.
Like
ball up top.
And that's why it's so beautiful. You know, as people point out, like after the show, watching New Hope, when Leia reacts, Ben Kenobi, that's like hearing like Santa, like he's back to he's back, like Carrie Fisher's performance is layered now by the show. And then everyone's favorite moment to point out, which everyone loves, is right before he dies, and he looks over and he sees them, and he's like, "We're good." Like, we got it. The kids are back. Like the kids are together. We're good. I'm gonna live forever now.
Mhm.
Yeah, it has all that weight of like, okay, take your shot. I already won, kid. Like,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan,
Yeah.
that's the thing that people don't understand is that, like, I mean, I don't count the Mapuzo thing because it was more of a chasing you around and beating you, chasing you around and then burning you, not even dueling you. But like, Obi-Wan is not 2-1 on Vader. Obi-Wan is 3-0 on Vader.
Mm.
He's beaten him in every way that counts. He beat him and maimed him. Then he beat him and wouldn't even mercy kill him and embarrassed him. And then he beat him morally, spiritually, and ethically and strategically. Like, he has never been beaten by Vader. Granted, you know, there are people that, like Jared, I'm sure, who's probably in his head like, well, if the fight had gone on at that time, with Obi-Wan's age, with Alec Guinness's forearms, I don't know.
With his forearms.
It was a lot of forearm action back then. It was just this. So it's like, it's all here. But like, yeah, could Obi-Wan have beaten him in New Hope? We'll never know. Doesn't matter. But
it's not the point, but no.
It's not, it's like, could he have? I don't know.
Listen, this is why Spencer and I on our Patreon offer the best Versus series online, because our conversations, yes, they are about who would win, but with the fights that actually have happened, it is always about what the fight represents, and we save our overly analytical lizard brain for the appropriate situation.
I mean, and look, but like, to tie it back in with the Rope It Open episode 5, that switcheroo, you can take the Attack of the training flashback from right before Clones, Jabim, and the Death Star. They are all the same thing. It's all Obi-Wan, like, look over here.
Yeah, I was just about to say, look over here, look over here, look over here.
Yeah, and then like, there goes the Millennium Falcon with every important hero that will turn the tide of fate and mythology and the world just flew away because you were too busy stomping on a cloak like you're fucking in the Wizard of Oz. Like, it's like, you know, so it's like, and I live forever. You know, it's like I
live forever.
I've unlocked immortality, and he couldn't have done that without a little bit of holiday cheer. And that's all I got.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. If you guys want more Star Wars holiday goodness, you can go back to last year's holiday special, or last year's Nerd Academy holiday special, where we talked about the Star Wars holiday special, which is an absolutely wonderful conversation we had with Jerry the Canon Junkie from Bombad Cast. Had so much fun with that episode. So go back and revisit that if you're still hankering for some more action like this. But I think that's the end of this episode. Alden, where can the lovely people find you and what you do, dear friend?
Yeah, you can find me at that Alden Diaz, pretty much everywhere. Instagram, the X account still exists. I don't go there anymore. It's just to hold the name. It's like a monument. Eventually, I'll probably grab what I want and then get rid of it. On Blue Sky, what are our Blue Sky ats? It's at thataldendiaz.bsky.social. I believe it is. They got to clean that shit up. They got to clean that.
It's such a mess.
Like, you can get your website as your thing, but like, now I got to go get a website. And so it's like, then I got to, like, it's a whole
because I know, because I just tagged the Nerd Academy one when I posted about us recording this. So it's at username.bsky.social.
bsky.social. Yeah. So at the Alden Diaz, you can find me on there. Octo Radio has been on hold since like March, but I will say it is going to come back early next year, not in the way anybody expects. And then Anytime with Kenan Alden is every Friday, 11 Pacific, 2 Eastern. Casually Talk has been a little start-stop since the show started, but we got some mini series and some little things that are gonna be popping up soon. And then you can Venmo me and help me buy presents for ungrateful family members. Anytime.
Nice little plug there at the end too. I say this every time he's on, and he calls me a thirsty bitch every time I do it, but I'll do it because the Christmas spirit behooves me to. Alden is one of the most intelligent people I know, and he's probably my favorite person to have on this show for conversations like this. So
it's because I cook.
Yeah, it's because Alden cooks. He cooks.
I don't mind saying he's my favorite person to have on the show.
And you know what? You guys are my favorite members of your team.
Well,
Man, fuck
we-
Connor.
we-
I love Connor.
We're about to find out that this whole time Alden refused to come on this show until Levi left. But
Would it shock you to know that like a piece of trivia is that I've never spoken to Levi?
I know you
We've
have,
never
because
we've never crossed paths.
We weren't like this whenever Levi was still on the show, and by the time he had left was when we became friends. But Levi has said that he's loved the episodes you've been on because he does still listen. He's
a sharp cookie. He's a dissenting opinion if ever there was one.
Yes.
But it is not without reason. And so
it became a running joke whenever Levi was still on the show that we would count the exact amount of times he and I ever agreed on something, and I think it got to 13 before he dipped after his final episode was our discussion about Star Wars Visions Volume 1. That was his final episode because Levi got to go out on the high about talking about his two favorite things, Star Wars and anime. He got to that was his retirement match. But yeah, hell yeah. Spencer, tell everybody to have a happy holiday because you have nothing to plug.
Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas season, everybody. It's been a pleasure talking about the Christmas stories of antiquity and of the recent interpretations. Please have a restful, peaceful, fantastic Christmas season. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know what makes me happy about Christmas this year that I think everybody needs, because it has been a hell of a year. I realized the other day that all of the winter end of December holidays happen in the same week.
That's true.
And you notice that?
Yeah, the first day of Hanukkah, the first day of Kwanzaa.
Yeah, Kwanzaa's the day after Christmas, and then Hanukkah starts on Christmas as well. So like everybody gets to have it all week. And that to my core makes me so happy. Like that is the kind of Pollyanna Christmas, just holiday magic bullshit I live for. Is everybody gets their special day inside of 1 week.
Unfortunately, I'm just looking this up to make sure I've verified my date. Scientologists, you won't have yours until May 23rd when Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning comes out. So May 23rd, 2025, Scientologists their Santa will come back.
Well, you know what? It is a marvel
along
that we went 2 hours.
Along with Tom Cruise. Yeah, Santa will come back with Tom Cruise.
Yes.
It is a marvel we went 2 hours before I had to play this clip.
Maybe I'll walk out of here tomorrow and you never see me again. That's really what I want to do.
This was almost a nice, crisp, adult 2 hours. This was almost so classy. This almost resembled like a nice talk program, and then you went and dragged your fucking ogre into it and ruined
my
it.
Ogre. Listen, if anybody, so here's a funny little nugget. I looked at the Spotify Wrapped for podcasts.
I don't want to hear this.
For Nerd Academy. No, like for Nerd Academy, like how the show did on Spotify this year.
Sure.
The number, so, and it was also like, here are the other shows your listeners listen to at a high volume. Number 2 shared show is Knowledge Fight. The number 2 shared show is Knowledge Fight, which made me so happy.
I guess that's good. I guess.
It made my heart happy because I know, because we get comments and people are like, "Oh, hey, you talk about Knowledge Fight. I started listening. It's great."
Retail makes your heart happy. Your heart is the easiest heart to please I've ever met.
That's not true. It's not the retail itself. It's the gift giving element of it that I enjoy.
Okay.
Jesus.
Oh, piss off, Simpson.
Find a soup kitchen. Jesus. Oh, God, Lord. Have mercy.
Anyway, all of that to say, if you're in the mood for a funny Christmas episode, Knowledge Fight has a great episode of one night of Christmas Eve where Alex gets sloshed and takes off his shirt and tries to hit camera with a hatchet from behind his desk and nearly makes direct contact with one of the hatchets with a fire extinguisher. It's a great episode.
Well, there you go.
But You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky at Dark Jedi 2552 on Blue Sky. It's the .social.blue sky bullshit. And the Nerd Academy on all of them. And that one is TNAP 2020 at bluesky.social. Whatever. Whatever. They need to clean that shit up. I can't even say it out loud without getting tongue-tied. Like I said, we will be back with some Skeleton Crew talk here soon. The way things are shaping up, it's probably going to end up being a season review early next year, just because my schedule isn't getting any more forgiving as we get closer and closer to Christmas. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, Versus Series, we're going to be having our big 2-part finale here soon with Ahsoka Tano, Clone Wars era versus Shin Hati, and then Anakin Skywalker, TCW versus Balin Skull. So subscribe to the Patreon at the $5 tier to check that out. You can also find me over on Ionized Bastards, as well as Alden, final season coming soon, early 2025. Very excited to bring that show home. I'm bittersweet about it. Speaking of Ionized Bastards, shout out to Level Up Sabers. Alan White, the guy who runs that shop, he was on the show last year or this year. I think it was last year. We had a conversation about like the weird ways people place blame on everybody for Anakin's fall but Anakin. It was a very fun conversation, but he runs the website Level Up Sabers, and I won one of their lightsabers for their 12 days of Sithmas celebration. I say Sithmas all the time, and I get tongue-tied once while I'm on a camera. But I won their knuckle saber, which is basically how I described Fabian's lightsaber, with like a normal lightsaber with like a hand guard around it, like a rapier. So shouts out Level Up Sabers. Go get lightsabers from him. But yeah, thank you all so very much for joining us. Thank you again to Alden for coming on for this episode. This is a wonderful, wonderful time. This will probably be the last upload in the main feed until 2025. So thank you all so very much for another wonderful year over here at the Nerd Academy. We're very happy for everybody who's joined us, who's checked in. It's been a wild year, wild for entertainment, wild in general. And look forward to more of it in 2025. But thank you very much. May the Force be with you. And happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. All that jazz. Goodbye.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!
And in 2025, I'm taking that belt off of Alden's motherfucking shoulders. Merry Christmas.